Welcome to Just Talking About Jesus. I'm Jan Johnson, a seasoned believer who loves relationships and, just talking about Jesus. Here you'll hear inspiring stories from a woman who went from using meth to starting a ministry in Kenya, or the man who had a life-changing encounter with someone in Home Depot, of all places, or a woman who has endured years of chronic pain after having her gallbladder, spleen, and pancreas removed. Every conversation goes deep into how God has changed lives and brought us to a place of surrender, sharing joys, sorrows, and just life in general. We don't have to go it alone because we can go hand in hand with Jesus on our journey. Jesus desires a relationship with us, with you. He wants to know us intimately. Revelations 12:11 says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." That's what I'm talking about. The word of our testimony. Just talking about Jesus. Join us each week.
And I think along with all the whys that I had, I also wondered, or things didn't add up to why I had this ability. And unfortunately, I would listen to what the kids or the world or people around me would say about me, that I was broken or disabled or that I couldn't or I wasn't good enough. And for a really long time, I listened to those messages, which caused me to be a bitter, kind of an angry person. And so school was hard, making friends was hard, and it's hard to manage that when you're kind of mad at the world. And as an adult looking back, I was actually mad at God because I thought he messed up on me.
If you're adopted, you probably have wondered about your bio parents. Maybe you wanted to know about physical similarities or medical background. Perhaps you wanted to know the circumstances surrounding your mother when she gave birth to you. Were you wanted, or have you felt abandoned? These are all questions that my guest Amy Miles wrestled with. Today, she'll share the horrific, yet wonderful story of God's plan for her life.
And that was when she shared with me that they knew from when I was in the hospital that my bio mother went in for an abortion procedure, and that abortion procedure failed.
Welcome, listeners, to this episode with Amy Miles. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I've known Amy since she was born. I knew her parents beforehand, and when she was adopted, that's when I first got to hold her in my arms many years ago.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we are going to talk today about a little bit of Amy's history and things that she's gone through and discovered about herself. So tell me a little bit about your journey.
Oh, wow. So I guess I'll start at the beginning. I've always known that I was adopted by an awesome couple, Nancy and Dick, who happen to be close buddies of yours.
Yeah.
They tried for years and years to have a baby, and they couldn't. And then they reached out to other agencies and had some turn down news from those agencies, and were kind of heartbroken and didn't think that they were going to try adoption or anything else for a while. And then they kind of had a change of heart and got linked with another couple in their hometown, actually a neighbor, who had a successful adoption. And they reached out to their adoption agent. And a couple of months later, my mom got a call about a tiny baby girl born in a town a couple hours away. And yeah, so ever since I was little, they've always talked about adoption. And I had this really awesome book from the 70s with lots of orange and brown pictures of a family who had a baby with adoption. And I haven't ever forgotten that book because it was one of my favorites. So we talked about adoption, and I knew I didn't come from my mom's tummy. But yeah, as I grew up, I think when I did ask questions, my mom especially would be kind of guarded and what I would call a little bit emotional about it, a little bit quiet. And I just kind of thought to myself, I guess I'll be quiet and I don't want to bother mom, so I just won't ask these questions. But inside, I kind of had a lot of question marks, a lot of whys. The other thing I always knew was that I had a disability. I was premature and I was told that. And my mom just would say, Amy, a little piece of you were so tiny that a little piece of your brain just it got hurt and didn't work well. And so that's why you have this disability. I think about 1.5, 2, I was finally diagnosed with cerebral palsy. My mom's a nurse and she's kind of a feisty go-getter, and she still is. But she would take me to doctor after doctor. And sometimes the doctors would have negative opinions of what my life would be like. I think one told them that I'd probably be institutionalized, and another one told them that I probably would never walk. And so my mom kept going to doctors until she found one in the Seattle area that said, take this girl home, celebrate small victories, take her places, and just enjoy the little things. And so that's what they did. And they eventually got the diagnosis of cerebral palsy, which can be different for individuals. But for me, it just impacts my balance and coordination in my legs. And then also I wear hearing aids. So, so yeah, I had a lot of therapy to help me learn how to walk and ride my bike and to run. And I'm thankful to do those things. I don't do them very pretty, but I am able to do them. And I am very grateful to that. And I think along with all the whys that I had, I also wondered, or things didn't add up to why I had disability. And unfortunately, I would listen to what the kids or the world or people around me would say about me, that I was broken or disabled or that I couldn't or I wasn't good enough. And for a really long time, I listened to those messages, which caused me to be a bitter, kind of an angry person. And so school was hard, making friends was hard. And it's hard to manage that when you're kind of mad at the world. And as an adult looking back, I was actually mad at God because I thought he messed up on me. And I know that to not be true at all now. In my 40s, but it took a long time for me to figure out why things were the way they were. And when I always kind of wondered who I looked like, and I made up my own kind of story about my birth mother. And I was told by my mom that she was a young college student who wasn't ready to be a mom yet. But I guess in my own mind, I took that further and I thought, well, she was a brave young lady who chose life. And I was very thankful for that. So it was not until I had my first baby, when I held Eli, I was really like, this is amazing. There's just nothing quite like this. And I thought of my birth mother. Of course, I loved him and I was super excited to have him. But I also thought of my birth mother. And I started kind of just having more and more thoughts about her. And then I met a lady at my work who said that she had a baby an unplanned pregnancy and a baby, and she had chosen adoption for her. And they hadn't reconnected until she was an adult, but that they had a really special relationship. And that kind of prompted me to ask my mom and dad for their permission to seek out my birth mother. And the day that I did that, they were really evasive and kind of, my dad disappeared and my mom was like, oh, let's journal about this. Would you want to journal about this? And let me think on this. And so they were just different than I had anticipated their reactions were. And I left thinking, that was weird. Something's up. And so the very next day, my mom came over really early in the morning on a day off, which they know me and they know I'm not a morning person. So I was kind of surprised to see her on my doorstep with 2 Starbucks in hand. And I thought, okay, you don't do this. So you have something to tell me. Why don't you come in? And that was when she shared with me that they knew from when I was in the hospital that my bio mother went in for an abortion procedure and that abortion procedure failed and I was born alive at about 27 to 30 weeks. They weren't really sure gestation. So I think at that time I was really reeling. I was in shock and I was hearing what my mom was saying, but I knew it was going to take me a lot longer to process what that meant. At the same time, I was just pleading with God saying, oh, no, like, I already have a pretty interesting story, Lord. What, really? Why me? You got more to this story? But at the same time, things kind of made sense. I was like, oh, okay. So for me, cerebral palsy didn't happen on its own, but it was a direct result of having that abortion. And I couldn't even say the word abortion. I know Jan remembers
Yeah.
that. I really couldn't even say that I was an abortion survivor without choking up or feeling like really strong emotions. And my first emotion, besides the shock, was grief, a lot of grief. Like, why am I here when countless other babies aren't? And
Survivor guilt.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also just grieved for my birth mother, grieved for mothers that were in her situation and just felt like they didn't have anywhere to go or any choices or didn't realize maybe that adoption was out there or that there were pregnancy resource centers there ready to support them. I just really grieved for having to be in that position and all that while knowing it very much is a life, regardless of when that procedure takes place. I can attest to that every day. I don't forget that just because of your location, it doesn't necessarily mean that your value or
Is any less.
yeah. So, yeah, that was quite a shock. I didn't really know that an abortion survivor was a thing. I felt like kind of an alien. Like, how do I even go about this? I don't even really understand what it means fully myself. And it's not necessarily something I can call up my girlfriends and say, hey, let's go have coffee so I can talk to you about this incredibly controversial and heavy topic. So I kind of locked it away for a couple years actually. And it was my husband who was kind of gently prompting me to get help or to find a group of people that were safe for me to share this information with. And he has since he was 11, he's kind of been a pro-lifer at heart and just really cared about pro-life topics and interested in the movement. And so he had heard of my friend Melissa Oden, who is also an abortion survivor. And she started a network that called the Abortion Survivors Network. And I connected with them. And that's really been life-changing for me because I found I was able to work through my feelings and meet people that had similar stories to my own. Abortion is a very different procedure for a lot of women and babies. So there's differences, but there's also a lot of similarity. And that was really healing to me. But I think the best thing it taught me or grew my heart, kind of like the Grinch, my heart grew. And I was able to find a place of forgiveness for my birth parents. And I think about them and I pray about them often. So that was really the best gift because it allowed me to see them as people, just like me, that have broken and made choices of my own that I regret. And so for me, that's really healing because I don't have to hang on to the hurt. I knew my new calling is to just educate women and men and families and kids about the realities of abortion and the industry and just the things that happen that shouldn't in our country. So yeah, that's a lot, but that's kind of me in a nutshell.
So how is your relationship with God now?
I lean on him even more. I've always known that he was the driving force. My adoptive parents were Christians, so they introduced me to the faith. But I often wonder, had I not been placed with them, I think I probably still would have met God along the way because there was a driving force in me that was more powerful than any of my depression or sadness or anger that I had as a kid. And I just knew I had to keep going forward. And I know that is God now, but I often wonder, you put me in the right place, God, but had I been somewhere else, I think I still would have met you because he was just always there and always has been. So, but I lean on him even more, especially in the times that don't make sense to me. Because just because I have a greater understanding of my purpose in life doesn't mean that things aren't hard or challenging or difficult. But I know that he's always been there from the beginning, so I can lean on him even more.
And you've come to a place of knowing that you're part of that plan that he had,
Hmm.
to accepting that plan and being that part in
Yeah.
the form that you were at.
Yeah. Finding out that information, it was never easy, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I think the people involved with ASN often say Abortion Survivors Network, we call it ASN. But people in there say it's kind of like the club that we're so thankful for, but we never wish anybody to have to be a part of. But yeah, I feel more whole, more me than I think I ever have before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine how shocking that was because basically it's like, oh, my mom tried to kill me,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't an act of her giving you to a better life consciously, that wasn't her intent. And so, yeah, that would be a lot to wrap your mind around. Yeah.
It was and is, but I'm glad that I have God through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so did you search for your mom?
I did. It was really a needle in the haystack at first. And what I learned through meeting other survivors at ASN was that many abortion survivors actually grow up with their bio family, which can be good and can be not so good.
Mm.
And I was envious at first because I was like, I don't even have a name. I don't even have anything. And they were talking about their families and knowing all this information. So at first I was kind of like, oh, gosh, how do I even do this? And I think God orchestrated the timing of me finding out information. Like I went through a healing program first and then I started getting information. And I think that was orchestrated by him, kind of like, I need you to wait until you get to a place where I'm ready for you to get to know some information. So anyway, I also kind of did my own investigative work at night when everybody was sleeping. I would get on the internet and there's just so much about adoptees and state agencies. And I can just say it's a goose chase because there's no, I'm from a small community. And so I'm used to like, oh, you got to go talk to so-and-so. They'll get you what you need. Even within the same agency, like DHS or getting records, there's no like, oh yeah, you need to talk to so-and-so. It was just talking to one person, maybe getting an email, talking to another person, not getting a call back. So it was really disjointed and frustrating. And then I came across pre-adoption birth certificates and I was like, because I had already paid money to be a part of another adoption kind of thing that DHS has, but you have to pay money and put that you're available for contact, and your bio parents have to put money in and say that they're available. So if one party isn't, then you're just kind of out of luck. And yeah, and my adoption was closed. So it wasn't an open adoption. So my parents didn't really have a whole lot. But the pre-adoption birth certificate did come back to me. And I remember dropping to my knees when I got it because I opened it and I read a name and it was a first and a middle and a last name. And I initially thought it was my bio mom's name. And then my heart just kind of melted and broke because she gave me a full name, which through my research, I found that, like sometimes there's no information on that. Sometimes there's baby Jane, baby, no name. So my heart just kind of broke that she cared enough to give me a name. And she did fill out some, where she was from and what her name was and what she thought what the name of the father was. I have a last name for him. So I just, again, I think about her constantly, and it's kind of weird because I don't even know her and she doesn't know me, but I think that's really a God thing. Even though that's not necessarily a relationship, there's a connection there that started very early in the beginning. So I chose to write her snail mail, which thinking back, I wish I would have emailed just a little quicker and faster. And she has written me, I think I've written her a couple letters and she's written me a couple. And the last one she wrote was that she wants to meet me someday, but she's not quite ready. And I fully respect that.
Well, and when you started your search, I mean, we're talking about a 40-some years difference, trying to find a location. And Yeah, all of those pieces. That's a lot
Yeah.
to go through.
Yeah, and it's vulnerability on both sides.
Right.
It's got to be hard news to hear and receive, but every time I sent one in the mail, I felt just kind of a
Yeah.
mess a little bit because every day I'm like, I wonder if I'll get that letter today that I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Or how she received it,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go. So did she know that the abortion failed?
Yes, through some of our communication, she said that there you were, was kind of how it was written in the letter. You were just there. You shocked the doctor. You shocked me. And then they whisked you away, is what she said. So she did know that I survived. And my parents were told it was a Catholic hospital. And I think the nuns there really doted on me and were very protective. Wouldn't even hand me to my mom to put in the car. They had to do it themselves so that they could bless me one last time. But they told my parents that she had come twice while I was in the NICU to visit. So I know she cared, and I'd love, my heart would be that even maybe meeting me one time would help her with her journey, regardless of what her thoughts of abortion are. I just pray for healing all the way around because I can't imagine going through that.
You may be the only person that prays for her.
Yeah. I think about her quite a lot. And my birth father. I think about both of them. And I think that's something that I always wanted to pursue both because it takes two to do that.
Yeah.
So I have written to my birth father, who I think my birth father is. And those letters have been returned to me. So I don't know if maybe I don't have the right address or I need to try again. And I've also had very clear prayers with the Lord. Like, if you need to protect these people, please make that really clear to me. So far, the desire is still on my heart, and I think He's placed it there. I'm just kind of waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting for timing and the correct thing to do, because it's there's not a textbook for dummies on on this process. And there's feelings all the way around, no matter which direction you take. And it's also something where, the people around me may have really different opinions. So I hear a lot of different ideas of what people think I should do. And it can be kind of tricky.
Yeah, the navigating all of that. So I guess I was, like many people, surprised that abortion survivors is even a thing, and I wonder if, there's a difference between how things were that many years ago and how they are now. If a baby does survive, they don't always just take them to a hospital or somewhere else.
Right. This state of Oregon that we're in does not have any protections for babies born alive. Ultimately, like you hear often in the pro-choice point of view, it's a choice of the mother. So a baby like me or older, gestation-wise, could just be placed aside. And that tugs at my heartstrings.
Yeah, a lot. A lot. A lot. And then going back again, just to being that survivor's guilt and, how that works. That's a natural kind of a thing. Yeah. And so now you and your husband are on the board of the pregnancy clinic.
Yeah. That's been a lot of fun for me to do. Never been on board before, so I've learned a lot. And so I think the chief thing is prayer, especially in this culture, in this day and age. I think where we're at, pregnancy resource centers are really being attacked and focused on. So a lot of it is prayer, like prayer for direction, prayer for discernment. Yeah, but it's been fun to get back to my community in that way. I also do a little bit of speaking arrangements at different events when I can. I've got 2 kids at home, so I try to balance that. But it's, it's a hard topic, and it's not always one that makes me comfortable to get up and talk about. But I do feel confident in sharing the truth. How people respond to it, I don't have any control over, but I do deep in my soul know that when you speak a truth, it's freeing. I don't know. That's been my experience.
Well, right. And I think it's just such a message that people need to know about it. It's just people, many, many, many people do not know that that's even a possibility for that
Yeah.
to happen. And
Yeah.
they just think, oh, we're just going to, take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. And it's
There's
going to be
many
done.
more. Our country doesn't do a very good job of tracking the number of survivors. But, we know from looking at other countries that do, Canada is one that tracks this information really well. We know that there's probably close to 2,000 survivors every year. And women survivors are more likely to seek out community and support, but we do have male survivors, and we are connected with some internationally. I have some international friends that I never knew I would have. So there's to date, I know that the Abortion Survivors Network has about 750 survivors that they're connected with. And when I first spoke to Melissa, that number was under 100. So
Wow.
I think the more people hear about this topic and the more research they do on their own, it's being found. And I was born in 1980, and I think a common response is like, oh, but this stuff doesn't happen anymore. And I know that's just not the case. Babies are surviving both abortion pill. So we have abortion survivors in our network that are babies.
Hmm.
And it's a community that's really grown to supporting mothers who have been through abortion. And what do I do now? That's supporting mothers that have had abortions that fail, supporting adoptive families of abortion survivors, and then of course abortion survivors like myself. It's just a really neat place to land if you have a story like mine.
Right. Right. And so where can people find you?
If you look up Abortion Survivors Network, you'll find us. We've got a website there, and then there is a group of us that, the goal really is to empower any abortion survivor to do whatever they need to share their story. But there are a group of us that will do public speaking and education. So I think there's some bios on there, and then our contact information. And yeah.
And would you possibly do something over Zoom for a group?
Oh, yeah. I did a Zoom interview with a life group in Ireland. That was a kick. Yeah. So they have far fewer abortions, but that number is rising for them as well. But yeah. So I've done Zoom events. I've done speaking events in Texas and Kansas and Colorado. It's just something I never thought I'd be doing, but
well, yeah. Funny about how God maneuvers our lives, right?
Yeah. When He's got something He wants you to do, you can hide from it for a while, but eventually it's going to come back around. And
So my latest book here, The Way to My Heart, is based on Amy's life, loosely based on on her life. And so this girl, Olivia, has one hand missing. And so it's always a mystery. She knows she's adopted, and it's a mystery of what happened there. So this is her journey to find her first mom and what happens with that. So there's some joys and some sorrows in there. And Amy has written an afterword within the book too. So I was grateful for that.
Yeah. It was fun to write. Well, it just kind of poured out of me. But it's a great book. I would say goosebumps all around. And if you like Hallmark movies, it's kind of a little bit of a Hallmark love story in there too. It's just it's a great story.
Yeah.
I'm honored to have given input for it. And it's kind of fun to read little pieces of, oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Well, it helped me a lot to be able to have her story and just the feelings that she went through, the emotions and the the way of going about trying to find a parent and all of that as well. But so thank you for that.
Yeah, my husband hasn't read it yet, but he thinks this guy on the cover is him and I. I'm like, I don't know. It's not.
He's kind of cute. Yeah. Like your husband.
Uh,
All right. Well, I'll put links in the show notes for people to be able to contact you or to find out more and to spread the word.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Before I knew Amy's story, I had never known there were abortion survivors. I'm sure there are many who don't know that. There's so much I could say about that, but I'll save that for another time. One thing we can know for sure is that God knew us from the beginning of time. He numbers the hairs on our head, or for some, the hairs that used to be on their head. He even sings over us. Each one of us is precious in His sight. Because God's hand of life was on Amy, she is now able to share His plan to tell others about the preciousness of life, of all life. He has already used her to give. Consider what you can do to show you care. Volunteer at your local pregnancy clinic, donate to it, offer to babysit for single moms, or give others support. You can check out abortionsurvivors.org and listen to their stories. The link is in the show notes. And now I'll put a plug in for my book, The Way to My Heart. This story is based on Amy's story, and Amy wrote an afterword, which I'll read now. Dear readers, I was honored when Jan reached out to me when she was in the beginning process of writing this book for ideas and for my input. I am equally as honored to write this afterword for The Way to My Heart. Thank you, Jan, for this opportunity to share some of my truths about the topic of abortion for your readers. So glad you're here. You see, like Olivia, I am an abortion survivor. That is a term I think is hard for many to understand, but it is something that happens more often than the general public realizes. The United States does not do a good job of tracking abortion survival rates, babies that survive when their birth mother's abortion procedure fails. In fact, there are only a handful of states in our nation that keep track of babies who survive. Canada does track this information. Based on correlated data from Canada, the lack of effective failed abortion reporting requirements in the United States caused an average overlook of approximately 1,734 born-alive abortions every year. Some of those survivors live only for a few seconds, a few hours, and some, like me, are blessed to thrive. I now feel led to share my story with others so that the truth of the impact of abortion can be known. Abortion impacts not only survivors like myself, but it impacts mothers, fathers, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents. Abortion impacts generations. I didn't always know about my birth beginnings. A handful of years ago, I, like Olivia, wanted to find my birth mother and father. I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to be adopted to a loving husband and wife who desperately wanted a child of their own, but couldn't when I was only a month old. My mom and dad are simply the best, and they're good friends of Jan and her family. My journey to discover my birth story and sometime later bio parents, relatives, has been one that has taken me up, down, and all around as far as feelings and emotions are concerned. I spent some time in shock, followed by grief, shame, and disbelief. I thought I was the only one. My adoptive mom and dad have also shared a mix of emotions with this process right along with me. Thankfully, through this process, I also connected with the Abortion Survivors Network. The CEO, Melissa, is a good friend of mine and also a survivor. Last time I checked, this network had connected with over 750 survivors of abortions worldwide. Being able to walk through this journey alongside others with stories similar to my own has been life-changing for me. Reaching out to my bio mother and father has led to some openings of doors and closing of others. I have a tremendous amount of respect and empathy for how my birth parents think and feel about abortion. I've been fortunate to be in contact with my birth mother, and I see her as an incredibly brave individual. I'm thankful for her, and I pray for her and my birth father often. I've forgiven them, which has grown my heart and my faith in ways I can't express properly on paper. I'm hoping that my start to communicate with them will grow into something that is healing all the way around. I'm so glad you chose to read The Way to My Heart, and I hope and pray it inspires you to do your own research about the abortion industry and the thousands and thousands of others out there just like Olivia and I. I really hadn't paid attention to this topic or knew much about abortion before it was providentially placed in my path. Now, I considered it an honor to speak for the millions of babies who lost their lives to abortion and could not speak for themselves. I also speak up for their mothers, fathers, and families, and anyone who has been impacted by abortion. Your stories matter. Sincerely, Amy Miles. And now I'll leave you with Jeremiah 1:5. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart. And Zephaniah 3:17. For the Lord your God is living among you. He is a mighty Savior. He will take delight in you with gladness. Until next time, be blessed. Do you have a friend or relative that would find value in this episode? Please share it. And you can let them know that if they'd prefer to watch, I always put these episodes on YouTube. So check that out in the show notes. And if you watch on YouTube, consider subscribing, because just as when you subscribe to this podcast and get notification when new episodes are out, the same will happen if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just Talking About Jesus. And then you won't miss an episode. Speaking of subscribing, are you getting my newsletters? These not only tell the guest stories, but also include pictures and links to the website and YouTube. I also add a little about my life, and who doesn't want to know that?